They told you it was about modernizing the rules, about helping small farmers and protecting biodiversity. On the surface, that is exactly how it was sold to the public. But if you read what actually happened in Brussels this June, a very different picture appears. In a single week, two of the most important seed decisions in European history were made. And the part that should worry every gardener is not what the new law added. It is what the lawmakers chose to leave out. Because when they had the chance to close the door on seed patents, they left it wide open. This is the story of how your seeds quietly became a legal gray zone, and how a small number of corporations now hold a tool that touches almost every plant you grow. Stay with me, because by the end, you will understand exactly what changed and what you can still do about it. Let me start with what is real, because this story does not need a single exaggeration. On the 15th of June, 2026, after more than 3 years of negotiation, European lawmakers reached a final agreement. It was a complete overhaul of the rules for producing and selling seeds and plant material. This new framework replaces 10 old directives, some of which had not been updated since the 1960s. On paper, much of it is genuinely good news. Organic seed gets clearer rules. In conservation varieties, the old local types adapted to specific regions get formal recognition. Gardeners keep the right to exchange small quantities of seed with each other for non-commercial purposes. Remember that part, because it is your way out of all this. But 2 days later, on the 17th of June, the same parliament made a second decision, and this is where the ground shifted. They voted to deregulate plants made with new genomic techniques, the newer gene editing methods. The vote passed, 431 in favor, 201 against. Now here's the detail almost no headline mentioned. On that same day, the parliament was asked to add amendments that would have curbed patents on seeds, and they rejected them. When they had a clear, simple chance to limit seed patents, they said no. Read that again, slowly. So why does that one rejection matter so much for the plants in your own backyard? To understand it, you need to know one thing that has been true since 2017. In Europe, patents on plants bred through normal, conventional breeding are supposed to be banned. A plant you could get through ordinary crossing and selection is not supposed to be patentable. That is the law as written. But the law as practiced is a different animal entirely. Organizations like arche-noah in Austria and the coalition called No Patents on Seeds have documented something disturbing. The European Patent Office has been granting patents anyway on naturally occurring gene variants, genes that already exist in wild plants or in old varieties. And here is the trick that makes it so powerful. A patent on a single natural gene also, by extension, covers any plant that carries that gene in its genome. A gene for disease resistance or for a certain flavor can exist in dozens of traditional varieties. A corporation patents that gene, and suddenly its legal reach stretches across every plant that happens to carry it, including, potentially, the heirloom in your raised bed that has carried it for generations. This is not a wild theory. In November of 2025, the Patent Office rejected a formal challenge against one such patent on a maize trait. No patents on seeds appealed, and their research found it was not a one-off. At least 5 more patents on natural gene variants had already been granted. This is the patent minefield. Not a single dramatic law that renamed your seeds overnight, but something quieter and frankly more effective. A slow accumulation of patents on the building blocks of life itself, combined with a parliament that, when asked to stop it, chose not to. And there is a second piece that connects directly to the seeds you buy. The critics, including the Organic Federation and seed conservation groups, raised a specific alarm. The new gene-edited plants will not carry mandatory labeling all the way down the chain. So the gene-edited material can blend into the general supply. And without a clear label, you, the gardener at the end of the line, lose the ability to easily tell what is what. That is the real meaning behind the phrase, they stripped the labels. It is not that every existing packet lost its name. It is that the new category of engineered plants enters the market with far less transparency than many people expected. Now, before I go further, I want to be completely fair about the other side. The seed industry groups like Euroseeds and many food producers support this framework, and their argument is worth hearing. They say gene editing helps create plants that resist drought and pests with fewer chemicals. They say lighter rules let smaller innovators compete. And they argue that without patent protection, there is less incentive to invest in better varieties at all. These are real points, and an honest gardener should weigh them. The disagreement is not good people versus evil people. It is a genuine clash between protecting innovation and protecting open access to the commons of seed. Reasonable experts land on different sides of that line. What I am asking you to do is simply see the whole board, not just the press release. So let me put the practical question on the table. If patents are creeping across the genetic map, what does a home gardener actually do about it? The answer is more hopeful than the problem because the law itself left you several doors wide open. The first door is open, pollinated, and heirloom seed. the old, stable varieties that breed true season after season. You save the seed, you replant it, and it comes back as itself, while the patent fights stay concentrated on novel traits and engineered varieties. The deep well of traditional open pollinated types remains your most independent option. The second door is that exchange, right? I told you to remember. Under the new rules, you can still pass seed to another gardener for non-commercial purposes. That means seed swaps, community gardens, and informal networks remain legal channels. Every seed you share through them is a seed that stays outside any corporate ledger. The third door is the conservation and seed library network. Organizations like Arche-Noah exist precisely to keep old varieties alive and circulating. Joining a local seed library or a national conservation network plugs you into a living archive. These are the institutions actively fighting the patent overreach in court, and supporting them is the most direct way to push back. The fourth door is simple awareness when you buy. Look for open pollinated on the label rather than hybrid where you want to save seed. Favor small regional seed houses and conservation associations over the largest catalogs, and ask sellers directly whether a variety is patent encumbered. The more gardeners ask that question, the more the market has to answer it. I pulled the full picture together into one companion guide. It lays out the timeline of both June decisions in plain language. It lists the open pollinated staples that breed true for grains, beans, and common vegetables. It maps the European seed libraries and conservation networks you can join, and the exact questions to ask any seed seller before you buy. If you want it, the link is in the description and the pinned comment below to save you the hours of digging that I just did. Now let me leave you with the honest bottom line. Nobody banned your tomatoes, and nobody is coming to inspect your raised beds. The change is quieter and slower than the loud version of this story would have you believe. But quiet does not mean harmless. A patent system that reaches into natural genes, with a parliament unwilling to stop it, is a real shift in who controls the future of food. The good news is that the oldest tools are still the strongest. A jar of saved open pollinated seed, a neighbor you trade with every spring, a local seed library that has outlived a dozen regulations already. That is how ordinary gardeners have kept their independence for centuries, and that is how you keep yours now. If this helped you see the real story, consider subscribing to this channel. We dig into the things the headlines skim past, one careful video at a time. I will see you in the next one.